Hello, welcome to Tarot for Our Times. This is Sarah Sachs, your medium on the go. And of course, everybody is talking about Venezuela. And I have, it's one of the cards of the going into the new year. It is the moon card. And this is about the path to transformation is standing up to bullies, and even if the path is lined with towers. So as you can see from the thumbnail on this video, I did kind of a little cropping and enlarging, so you can see that the two the two pillars of transformation is the towers from what I created a couple of weeks ago. And that seems to be what it is. It does seems like we're in literally in landmine. So of course this is about Venezuela. And what I have to say is that the classic bully is the person who will always pick on the weaker guy. He's not going to pick on someone his own size. So we're going into a country like Venezuela, and then of course the person that he swooped up and kidnapped to bring to trial for drug trafficking, of course, while pardoning a real drug trafficker. He's a bully himself. He's a terrible person, and probably both of them should be at the Hague and not doing this sort of thing. So here we have the moon, and then there's always Epstein staring, because somehow there's going to be some kind of a connection, because in corrupt governments you get trafficking and all kinds of stuff. And if you look at the thumbnail, you'll notice that the head that I have of Trump, I didn't realize I was doing it, but as I placed him, it seems like the paw of the feral dog is resting on him, not attacking him, but you're just kind of like resting on him to show really that he's not integrated both the natures of this. So I'm going to pick another card at random to see what the secondary card or the clarifier card to the moon is, and the moon with its towers in the background. So let's see. I'll cut this and then we pick. So what's our secondary card here? Okay, our secondary card is we've got the King of Wands here, and he's upright. What this is telling me is that there may be someone in the background who is going to have the nerve to stand up to the bully. Now, this could mean a number of things, and I think it'll be more clarified as I do the reading. That this is possibly, I think the Democrats are starting to grow a set. And there was the emergency meeting at the UN. There's not even Russia, there is no country that has agreed to any of this. So you have to wonder, and he's a very, very inspiring guy, and he doesn't take anything from anybody. So I'm wondering if this is the person that is going to, this could be the whole world, but this could also mean that this one here could be neutralized. So maybe more will be revealed, but in our own lives, this is the time to stand up to bullies. Haven't you had enough of all of this? I know I certainly have. So I'm going to put these back in the deck, and I'm going to pick an oracle card as the theme to see what kind of a theme we've got going on here. I'll just shuffle these a little bit. These I always read upright. Okay, so what do we have here is the theme trust. This is interesting. This figure is riding on a deer and she's got butterfly wings and she's out in the forest. I think the whole thing is to maybe for us to trust that he's not going to get very far. This also it's interesting because a butterfly always signifies transformation, going from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And oftentimes when we stand up to bullies and tell them what is no longer acceptable and get the courage, that's when the courage brings about an incredible amount of transformation. So this could be about bullies and the fact that if the world is standing up to him, could that possibly mean that all of his talk about conquering the world with Greenland and Canada and President Sheinbaum in Mexico is she's not having it. She's not having it either. I also when he mentioned Colombia, I thought, wow, is he even thinking this now? See, the thing is that I'm sure that there have been. I think Venezuela's probably it has some cocaine that gets run through it, but it certainly it doesn't appear to be the big kingpin. But Colombia, everything goes through Colombia, and they've got a really wicked cartel. And if they feel threatened, they could. Because one thing that people like that do for fear, if they're protecting their business, one thing that they do is that they could very well pick someone very powerful to show as an example. So I would say this shows how Kanks is not really thinking to come out and give his intent to a country that probably has an incredible drug cartel. There's a bunch of them living here and all over the world, and they're not just brown people. That's the whole thing. They're like South Americans. They're blonde, they're redheads, they're brown, like we are in the States. So I would say that that's a very, very big mistake that he's making. So at any rate, and bullies are basically cowards. I wonder if someone tells him how not only, well, he doesn't care about his family, but if they tell him it's you and your family that are in danger because these cartels, he'll take out the whole family. So at any rate, I don't know if that would just put some fear into him. I think only time will tell. So I'm going to see how this relates to us in our own personal journeys along with this, and probably with a little bit of what's going to happen. He may go taco. He just has a bunch of sycophants. I would think maybe somebody like his daughter, who might say, do you realize what you're saying? She's probably the one that can maybe put this talk to an end. But I would think someone's going to have to put some fear into him, because that's all he understands, for him to go taco and back out. But let's see what's going to happen and see how that relates to us. So, been shuffling right along here. So the main card we have here is, okay, Nine of Cups, the smug merchant. I always look at this card, even in the classic Rider deck. is that this is someone sitting in his comfort zone, very smug, that everything is okay and it's going to go on this way forever. But that person could be putting himself, he gets into a comfort zone thinking he can just do anything he wants to do. But in fact, that's when someone can put themselves into danger. And of course, I'm saying this in the spirit of for entertainment purposes only. Okay, so we have the energy is, this has come up. This is the infighting. I would say there's the as far as his doing, this is something I hadn't thought of. I know there are people in Congress that aren't real thrilled about this. This what makes me wonder if his own cabinet isn't fighting over this. It's squabbling over this whole thing. I think as long as you give Hegseth a drink, you keep his booze supply going, and let him pound his chest like some big hot shot macho man, then he'd probably go along with about anything. But I suspect there may be, not that they're reasonable, but they're thinking, well, maybe this wasn't the right time. And so there's fighting behind closed walls that we do not know about yet. So let's see. Leading up to this in the before tarot, this whole thing of probably of what on earth may, although he's been talking about it and attacking the boats where the previews have talked about being a bully. So leading up to this in the before, interesting is that in this reverse, in any form, it's it's opposite. It's the opposite of the insomnia. Not really worried. But see, the thing is that before this person rolls over and goes to sleep, they're looking at the sword. There's blood all over those swords, which is saying, aren't you worried about the blood that's going to be shed? And it looks like they're going, whatever. As long as I get what I want. So, which is another way of saying, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to get away with it. I'm getting away with everything, which is a big Nine of Cups thing. After tarot is, interesting. This is kind of going along. Oh, okay, this is so him. The rest of the world is kicking him out in the cold, but as you see, he's leaving the rest of the family around. So this is pretty much, he always leaves people hanging. He leaves them and he said, I'm going to go on and I'm going to look after myself, and these people can freeze to death for all I care. So yes, it looks like this person has a bundle of something on the back and they're just not going to share with those other people. So, but saying that he's not in a super duper position. So okay, so let's see what the what's underlying all of this. Then I would say this is where maybe the general we come into it, as far as kind of like a lesson. That's what I think that these undercards are going to be meaning. Okay. Yep, up against a lot coming up. This is about unaffordable housing, insecure health care, inflation, you name it. This is we're very aware that this isn't being addressed, and we're kind of on our own to deal with all of these things. Okay. Then we have, okay, the concern about there's no bargaining going on, and Pentacles in reverse always tells me the of corruption. It just in one form or another. So this is, to me, this is the artisan trying to con the patrons, and he's going to rip them off and not give them what they've wanted delivered. So this is our general state. So as we watch this, it may not, I was thinking at first, standing up to the bullies and, the Trumps in our own life, but this also could mean maybe I think by spring, more people will have had it. And if they thought the No King's March was something back, when was that, back in October? You ain't seen nothing yet. Okay. So this is being aware of all of the corruption behind this, with the sending in the oil companies and all of that. And that we are also waking up to the fact that doing this stuff is really operating from a position of weakness, and that we're actually going to see how weak that these actions are, and that in fact maybe conquering Greenland and all of this thing. And I think this is what the fighting is about, is like, do we really want to fight against NATO? We may have a very strong military force, but that means the rest of the world is against. I mean, that was at the UN, the rest of the world is against us. So there may be some fighting about that, but this is where maybe the general population starts to smell the blood in the water, and to realize that they are operating from a position of weakness, and that we will find in their weakness, we will find our strength. And I will say our strength will come going to the ballot box and having some surprising wins that probably haven't voted for Democrats since before the New Deal. Let's go back 100 years, and finding our strengths, showing the numbers as in the protests. So that also goes to person that and at that time, at the same time, it's showing people in our own lives that have been bullying us, and seeing them for the really weak people that they really are. So let's go to the conscious and the subconscious. Okay, so conscious, here we have, we realize that this is some serious stuff, but it's also, he didn't attack Greenland, okay? That this is pretty much small potatoes, but also realizing that this is not learning the lesson. So so consciously we're seeing it's doing the same stuff over and over again and not learning the lesson, and which makes us look like, what do we do? Like every time, maybe starting to realize every time we let a bully bulldoze us, that even if it's a small thing, we haven't resolved it, and it's going to repeat and repeat until it turns right side up to be a tower upright. And maybe we're seeing this as a warning thing. So all of this is about kind of like waking up. I would even think that some people in the metaphysical community who don't give a shit about any of this may actually start to. Okay, so subconsciously, what's going on underneath? Okay. Subconsciously, it's when I say subconscious, this could, usually that comes to the surface, is how we have normalized corruption. And this is something that we live with, and it's, everyone does it, but this tower is saying that this is going to come up to the level of consciousness, for those that are, choosing to say they don't do politics, yada, 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 that sort of thing. Very prevalent in the world in which I live, but I think that's starting to change. Okay, so in the past, with all of this, we have, the Two of Cups. Pretty much a lot of people divided who are going to say, are we going to get together on anything? Are we going to find some common ground to meet? So it's been, I would say, since the big FAFO factor has kicked in since November 6th of 2025, that's kind of like we're still feeling each other out and trying to make up our minds to unite. So that could really change soon. So going to the present, we have interesting, the Ten of Cups. I would say that okay, I'm going to say that right now, and this may be a little bit, I think this might be a little bit just slightly past. This is going back a year. I would say this is maybe from the escapism, which is a good one, of being with families over the holidays, but I also think that they're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, because they know that this rainbow is very fleeting. So this is pretty much, because this all happened, when did this happen? A couple of days, like right after the New Year. So, and then so almost in the present, I think the whole thing was forgetting about some of this stuff for a while, and it's a bit like being with family and the holidays and all of that. So immediately following that is the King of Cups. That used to be my Biden card, and but I would say the King of Cups, he rules over the sea of emotions, and I would say with our kind of like a little bit of, those that have nice families, but they're kind of like the glow of the holidays and having some fun and getting away from things, is that this guy, I'm going to say, is bringing an emotional message, because look at that. Yeah, the waters are starting to churn. I would say that's the alternative. I'm looking at this perhaps as the alternative YouTube, things like Midas Touch and all of the offshoots of that, and Mary Trump and the people like that. They're just saying things are stirring up, and it's going to be quite emotional. This is also telling us that in the midst of all of this is to find some kind of a positive emotional anchor to get through all of this. So let's see, heading a little bit into the future. Oh, here we have the moon, and I would probably say as a nation, we're doing some very deep thinking about how we want to be seen by the rest of the world. And this is a very, Edgar Casey and a number of those people that are not alive anymore had pretty much warned us about that the chickens are going to come home to roost. And the thing is that the male sun always illuminates, the male sun illuminates the female moon, but it also sheds light onto the darkness. And of course, this attack did happen. Yeah, right, it was a full, now I remember, it's a full moon, so this was a Saturday kind of a thing. So that happened when we were actually at the apex of the full moon. which is saying all kinds of energy and these things in this particular card firing up. So this is interesting. So the news is people on the internet bringing the news of this attack, and we're saying, I think one thing that we're also saying is that a lot, though people in Europe, they understand that the majority of us are not on board with us, but I get a sense that there may be a little bit more hostility. And in Latin America, I mean, not just South America, but the Mexican, which is still North America, Central on down, they may not, it's an emotional thing because it's attacking their people. I mean, I would say that right now the people in Venezuela are celebrating, but when the oil dudes come in reality, it's gonna be like, we went from the fire to the frying pan to the fire. So there's a whole lot. This is a lot about the subconscious coming up as far as what we've been as a nation and the ugliness of the Monroe Doctrine, which has become the Don Roe, and what are we as a people that we have actually, and maybe in certain material ways, have benefited from this. So there's a lot of soul searching going on. So going more into the future with the After Tarot, we have, what do we have here? Oh, well, whatever little rest time we've had from the drama, this lady is waking us up and saying, it's over. I mean, it's interesting, like right after the New Year's and the full moon, it's like, okay, you guys have had your fun. Whether you were partying or with your family, it's over. And this is a rude awakening, basically. And so maybe this could be telling us we're getting a rude awakening about what we want to be as not as only individually, as a country, that perhaps we cannot separate those anything more. So going more into the future, we have Two of Cups. Interesting. We had this over here, not knowing whether to get together. Okay, here's a positive thing. I'm going to see that maybe people are realizing that perhaps we really need each other. And I'm not necessarily seeing this as MAGA and a progressive going kumbaya. This could be a sadder but wiser MAGA, but it could also mean that maybe we need to start caring and looking out for each other a little bit better, since we're living in this crazy world, and we're going to be picking up the tab. And when this happens, people get out and they get changes. That's interesting, because is that a cat or... Oh, that's a kitty cat in there. And they can often mean magic. So then this is about healing together. So this has been a very traumatic part of our history, that every time, sometimes I think I'm going to wake up and it's going to be November 5th, and this was all a horrible 2025. It's all been a horrible nightmare. So this is about people checking in on each other and looking out for each other, that it isn't a hugging like, oh, let's go off to war and all that patriotic flag waving bullshit. It's not that. It's I think looking out for each other and knowing that maybe there will be some healing from all of this, which is part of the awakening. And when you get together in numbers, that's how you beat the bully. So now the crucial part as to, because I wondered, do people in Europe, has there been a little bit of a shift? I don't know if I'd be wanting to go. I wouldn't, certainly am not going to go to Buenos Aires. And and dance a tango. Oh, I forgot the microphone. Oh, no. I hope I can be heard. I can't. I always. Oh, boy. Okay, let me plug this in. Hopefully, I've been projecting enough. Okay, I thought there was a little bit of space here. Okay, so. Yeah, so I'm curious to see if this is a little bit of a bridge too far, maybe out of a little bit of I don't know. I think the people I know personally, over in the UK, Europe, and Australia, no, I don't think so. But what about if I were to go over there and just like the people and the strangers in the train stations and all of that? I wonder if that's shifted. Okay, well, let's see. What do we think of ourselves? How do we see ourselves right now in light of this horrendous action that we feel our fathers and grandfathers fought wars against? Okay, so Louise, how do we see ourselves? The Hierophant in reverse. Yes, our government has let in our institutions have really, really let us down in not stopping this. This also means that there may be people stepping outside the box and hopefully not to do harm to themselves or others, but we're seeing ourselves as like, this wasn't supposed to be that way, and our institutions have let us down. So how is the rest of the world seeing us? Interesting. The Ace of Wands. I believe with this is that many who may not have, that have, I'm afraid to say some of my colleagues, but overseas, and maybe some I knew at the Arthur Findlay School and whatnot, have not been really paying attention. Of course they're involved with but I'm talking about the ones that don't even know what's going on with their own countries are finally waking up to what is really going on. It's like seeing the burning bush. I think that they're realizing that, we're really in a real shit show over here. But I would also say that that this could mean that, if you're traveling, that sort of thing, that that this could be used as a club to protect themselves. That I'm going to say that that the ones that we don't know may be kind of protecting themselves and may not be so helpful and friendly, that sort of thing. So this is not doing us very good in the worldview. I would say perhaps not trusting, but the others we know, the light is kind of shining upon them. So let's see. I want to see, do a little outcome read as far as also maybe say if the cards will indicate if he's going to go any further right now with the whole world against him. That's a hard thing to see. You know what? I was looking at this base card. Interesting. Not the way he looks now. That this could be kind of maybe a flattering picture of what he was like younger. A younger Kanks. When, he just had the whole world by the tail. Even though he had businesses failing, there was always someone to bail him out. Probably the Russians. But at any rate, that's interesting, because I'm saying, that looks a little bit like the younger version of him when he was in his 30s or 40s. Okay, so let's see, as a result of this and what could happen in the future, I mean, we're just hoping he doesn't go any further, but let's see. Of course, we don't have much control over that. Let's see. Okay, we have the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. So this is the bad harvest, and she's decided not to fill her basket. I would say instead of this being opposite, I'm seeing this maybe in the more extreme version that reversals can have. I'm going to say this is people really, really walking away from their bad choices and, coming along with this as soon as, I would say, as soon as the celebrations of the Venezuelans celebrating and realizing they're really getting screwed by corruption coming from us, it's going to be them walking away. More and more people kind of really distancing themselves and realizing they planted a bad crop with this one, and that we're going to see continuous poisonous fruit from the poisonous tree, and really be I would even say that they say, well, there's a law, which isn't the best thing. Well, he's done an executive order and we have to do this, that, or the other thing. Well, people say if he doesn't, we won't, and people just flaunting and at any rate protesting in that way. Okay, so we've got the Four of Cups reversed, and this is pretty much is we're really running out of emotional options here with these 3 cups and then this one coming in, and it may be really, really hard to, I don't know, maybe this is saying that emotionally it might really be hard to keep the lid on. So any protests that are planned, better, it's just like better have training to keep the emotions in check. Truly better have that, because this is people really getting fed up and they're kind of getting out of emotional restraints. Okay, so to clarify this a little bit is, the general illness, seeing the general illness of this, not good, not a good thing. That it's also about, if you're going to resist, be smart about it. Okay, then I think the thing is I think the whole thing is to be very clear that there are still some that are tied to the devil. They're not going to unchain themselves anytime soon. So the whole thing about reaching out and trying to understand, it's just pretty much a waste of time. I would say it's time to not engage. It's just time to not engage unless you want to have a little fun or something. No, but it really is time to just not engage, to be very realistic that even though the numbers may be dwindling, there are those you're just not going to convince. Okay, so this is interesting. This is about new beginnings and taking a risk and starting the cycle all over again. I want to say that this could represent people in the primaries and come November about the voting is going to be very surprising, and this goes back to the whole thing of people perhaps voting for Democrats when they never ever thought that they possibly would. I would also say this Fool represents the people of New York voting for Mondami, who is an out-of-the-box Democrat, and I understand that the Jewish community is a little bit nervous about him. So people will be keeping an eye on him, but I think he's pretty smart and realizes that he's got to really address this community. But I would say he probably did get a pretty hefty Jewish vote too. So that this is a way of saying We're not going to go with the establishment people anymore. That we really do, and this is the message of jumping out of the box of complacency that this base card had, and to take a chance, and hopefully it works. But that what this is saying, that this could be the new type of candidate that people will be going for, and it will be the younger Bernie Sanders, and it won't be, progressive Muslims, but people progressive of all, races, sizes, and shapes of that are kind of on board with this whole thing. And you could say, oh well, that's New York, but I know I lived there, and I saw people elected that were just awful Democrats, but also they elected Giuliani, who was fine for the morale of 9/11, and I guess did a few, but in the end he turned out to be totally corrupt. So so New Yorkers are known for they're not a monolith of, oh yeah, we're knee jerk whoever the Democrat is. No, they're not. They're not like that. But this is beyond a Democrat. So I think that people like that are going to be elected outside of New York. And this could be a Jewish guy, it could be a Buddhist guy, it could be a Christian like a Jimmy Carter type. It definitely could be younger, or at least like Bernie, young at heart kind of thing, that maybe the age thing isn't that chronological. But this is, I would say, people are getting fed up, and it always seems to come back to hitting bottom, like the alcoholic does, hitting bottom and saying that this is not working, we've got to do something new. And this whole awakening and shift of consciousness stuff really comes down to, when you stand up to a bully, it's like you've had enough. You've taken enough bullying. And that this is an awful thing that he did. And I know that the people of Venezuela, I understand they're celebrating, but when they wake up to the reality of what this really means, they're not going to be, and they're going to really have to fight to get the candidate in that they probably elected in the first place. But it really all does boil down to the fact that we have to accept that there are people that are going to think this is wonderful and they're not going to change, but there's more of us than there are of them, and that they're just going to be chained to the devil, and there's not going to be any changing of their minds. So and I don't want to say this is a good thing, but I'm going to say this is another thing of really pushing people out of their little comfort zone and saying that, well, okay, now he's really gone too far, but he will continue. This is telling me he will continue to go too far. And maybe this is what the awakening is. It's before you have a wonderful spiritual awakening, you have to get rid of this debris, and you have to get rid of the bullies in your life and in public life. And unfortunately, it's never ending. But when you do that, that's where you gain your power, and that's the power of awakening. So I get a sense he may try to pull a few other little stunts, and may beat his chest about Greenland, but it also teaches a lesson that instead of cowering, say, yeah, I dare you to do it, and let's see how the rest of the world feels about it. They usually back down. And so this is a very important lesson that we're going to be carrying, and bullies push until we push back. And so it's going to be, and I think that's part of the collective awakening for those that choose it, and it'll come in different time frames. So that's pretty much it. So I will be back with you soon. Bye.